Leo Coker was no ordinary man. Born and brought up in Buenos Aires, he became one of the greatest steel pan tuners that the world has ever seen. Born in Buenos Aires? But where is Buenos Aires anyway? Even today, many Trinbagonians still ask this question. Those who heard of the name think that it is behind God's back. The name's Buenos Aires is a Spanish word which means good air. Through the years, Buenos Aires has lived up to its name. The constant pollution-free air which blows over the slight elevated plateau of this village makes Buenos Aires one of the healthiest places to live in Trinidad.
Have you been living here all the days of your life?
Well, yeah, just step out for a few years, about 2 years, and come back.
What keep you here in Puerto Grande all this while? What the attraction really keep you here?
Well, you know, I like the good breeze, and you know, apart from the pollution and things, so I like to be here. I just stay more healthy and
The Puerto Grande beach adds its peculiar charm to the village. When Leo Coker was still a child, this beach was one of the finest in the land. It was well known for its picturesque sceneries, undisturbed serenity, and coveted privacy. Today, this beach is still beautiful, but it is a shadow of its past. Erosion has taken hold of its better part. The So River and waterfall are also key features of the village. Hardly known by Trinbagonians outside Buenos Aires, the So waterfall trickles in the dry season, but in the rainy season it is quite a fall for its size. The So River runs a course of about 3 miles before emptying in the Puerto Grande beach. This river flows constantly and never dries up, even in the most severe dry seasons. So was the main water supply for people who lived in parts of the village, as Junction and Puerto Grande. This is the river that Leo depended on for water supply well into his adult years. The abundance of fruit trees flourishing in Buenos Aires lend significant addition to the greenery of the village. This was especially true in Puerto Grande, that part of the village where Leo grew up as a child. There is no doubt that the natural beauty and charm of the village of Buenos Aires influenced the creative ability of Leo Coker to become such an excellent steel pan tuner. The people of Buenos Aires were easygoing and friendly, and it did not take much to start a fete rolling anywhere, even under a tree.
For me Christmas, hey, I don't want no callaloo. You could keep your money cool. I want a piece of pork from me. Come down. I want a piece of pork. I want a piece of pork. I want a piece of pork for me Christmas. You could keep your callaloo. I want a piece of pork for me Christmas. Da da ding da do la da 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 da. La da 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 dee, la da 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 da. Dee la da 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 ding ding ding. Da da ding ding dong, dong dong dong, dong 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 dong. Da 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 ding ding ding, da da ding ding ding, da 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 da.
Under the rum shop in Savannah, otherwise called Down the Road, was the traditional meeting place. The limes, the fights, most of the excitement happened there. It was the Mars Hill of Buenos Aires. This is Buenos Aires Government School. It was a place of terminal formal education for most, if not all, the villagers. After passing through this elementary school, the majority of villagers would have worked on one of the two large agricultural estates, on their small plots of land, as fishermen, or as small craftsmen. Later, quarry work became the main industry in the village. Leo Coker attended Buenos Aires Government School, as most of the children of his time did. After leaving school, the opportunities open to him were very narrow. Either the garden or the quarry. Fishing was seasonal and not a viable alternative at the time. The opportunity to learn a trade was also few and far between. Leo chose quarrying. Quarry work was the most lucrative at the time, but also the most laborious. It left no energy for creative endeavors. But Leo was a creative person. Being without father or mother, Leo had to fend for himself very early in life. Working in the quarry was suppressing his creative ability. So Leo became a handyman and was good at everything he touched. He eventually settled for barbering, and what a barber he was. Leo Coker had an obsession for details and was gifted with a keen sense of hearing for musical harmony. This attracted him to musical instruments. The popular musical instruments in Buenos Aires at the time were the cuatro and the guitar. Leo learned to play both of these musical instruments and could have tuned them as nobody else around could. Leo was a small man by physical standard, but he possessed a giant's ability. He could have outrun, outswam, or outwalked anyone in the village who challenged him.
Yeah, we grew up there as friends, but you know, he was no sportsman and thing. You know. He was more, he liked pan.
But I understand he could have swim, and you
Yeah, he
saw
could have-
swimming
yeah,
sometime,
he could
right?
swim, yeah, for that.
And how about running? He could have outrun you too, you think?
No, he never could have outrun me. He could have swim.
But he could have outwalked you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, whatever. But one he was a very strong fella.
yeah.
Yeah, he grew up with his grandfather, as you know, eh?
All right.
He grew up with Mr. Coker, you know. But he was no sportsman and didn't play cricket or football or something like me.
When the Roberts family started the first steel band in Buenos Aires, Leo was still a child. But this type of music coming to his village must have made a marked impression on his young mind. Leo Coker's first face-to-face encounter with the steel band was when the Junction Boys began a steel band in Buenos Aires. A young man from up north, which the villagers called Saga B, tuned the pans for the boys. Leo, being one of the members of the band, was overtly eager to learn the art of pan tuning. When Saga B left the village, Leo took over the responsibility for tuning the pans. It was not easy for Leo because Pat, one of the leaders of the band, never settled for second best.
But Pan, after we already went to the Pan because we get into the Pan through Saga B.
Okay.
Yeah.
Saga B. And what was Saga B's right name again?
Hollis Antoine.
Yeah, but we all knew him as Saga B,
Knew him
right?
as Saga B, yeah. Yeah. And when he came down there, he the fellow that introduced Pan to the village again. After when he stayed there, I left and he came to St. Joseph.
All right.
So that come up at the Pan, so I just went down right there.
Yeah, because you didn't have anybody to tune and so on.
Right, but me and Coca sort of go there and we start to choke and try to get things good until, well, Coca, well, you know, he more slave to that, but he wasn't looking for nothing to do as well. I have to find something to do.
All right.
So he keep on there all the time, every day. When I come and see him, they never come the boy. He even get on Pan down by he sing with group. Many pans spoiled, you know. Many drums spoiled before we could get to the real thing. Well, time and time. Well, Coca come and he started tune. And then after, well, we went down to Point, I could remember. And started hanging around this fellow they call Juve. Yeah, that is a Indian Juve again, Alan. And from Alan Juve, he started to come back with different ideas and he come back again to get the pan to song going to the tune and ask me, boy, how you find it going and thing. Well, I myself started to tune the bass. So he used to tune the front line and I used to tune the bass.
But during that time, I understand that like you were a fellow who really stood out for excellence, you know, it must be good. And sometimes, as I heard, that you would throw the pan.
Yes, sometimes when he tune a pan and I find it and song the way it should be, or we want it to be, because sometimes we listen to those north pan side, especially Alan, other pan side in Point, named Sun Valley. Well, them the song real good. So sometimes we go down Point here and you go and listen to them and then hear the pan song and watch the pan, and then you come back home and say, boy, let me try this again, and you go back trying again until they get a little perfect. And doing so me, he gets so perfect until after when the pan was about to mash up, he went up to Port inside.
Diving. He wanted to be the best diver.
Right.
He wanted to be the longest man that could stay underwater coming to furthest distance.
Yeah, that was
you know, that is the type of individual that you were doing it. And in the pan business, you know, he and this guy, Pat was the tenor player.
All right.
You know, Pat is another guy that wouldn't settle for no half-dead pan that not singing good in his head.
All right.
So whenever Coca tune the pan and he's snoring, and if I hear something good, he take it out of the rattle tree and we say, me a bit in that. And then Coca will go and pick it up.
All right.
And Coca will go and work on it again. And he'll bring it into the song a little better, but he still don't like how it's singing. And you know, Coca will proceed until he get it exactly where it's supposed to be.
All right.
And you see what, well, the history have what he turned out to be.
In an indirect way, Pat helped Leo Coker on his journey to perfection as far as pan tuning was concerned. Leo Coker became better and better at the craft of pan tuning. The sound of his hammer and chisel could be heard miles away as he persistently hammered away at those old oil drums, turning them into instruments of harmonious melody.
this is the finished product here. I'll run the scale for you. One scale for you.
Some villagers criticized Leo Coker, saying that he was wasting his time on those old oil drums instead of working in the quarry as the other young men in the village. But Leo Coker had a vision.
If you know when he really started to work on pan and things like that, people here, if you're not working in the quarry or something, you're not working. Work was seen only as physical work, hard work. If you could work in the quarry hard and things like that, then you were a man and so on. But Leo was not like this. He was different. And while people working in the quarry, you will hear pan ponging over there, pong, 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 and pan. And people used to criticize him, saying, "This man lazy, only a ponging a ponging pan all day." Or what? Have you heard something like that?
No, well, I never know him working in quarry. And
no, I'm not saying that he really worked, but because he was not doing that
in the quarry
and only ponging pan all day, they thought he was wasting time on a hard guy,
People would have been saying that based on what went before. No, he is one of the guys that you have to say make it big in pan. And when I say make it big in pan, he make it big in pan both ways.
Yeah.
He make it big in pan as a tuner, a blender, or the music.
Yes.
And he also make it big in pan as one of those that was able to control his money. Because he is one of the few, if not the only Panman in Trinidad that didn't go begging. If anybody wants to research the history of pan leaders in Trinidad and Tobago, tuners that were leading major bands in this country, some of them are alive, just like the Calypsonian. And look at them. Every one of them is somebody always calling government should assist them. And they made it big. They handled money, but they didn't invest. They didn't put aside nothing, as the old people say, for the rainy day. Probably they live it up. You understand?
So Leo is quite unlike them.
Nah, nothing in the area of these guys and them, man. Nothing in the area of these guys as far as crumbling was concerned or is concerned. Because I will say, look, the man died, and he died. I will say the man died his son. Because he didn't sick more than a real month, even though he might have been sick before, but when it came to the knowledge of the public, I would say it's about a month he was sick. He just deteriorated fast. And to me, he lived family well off.
Yes.
The band injunction broke up, and it was time for Leo to seek greener pastures. Leo also had a passion for motor mechanic. He would buy books on cars and learn how to repair them. Around this time in Leo's life, there was a small mechanic shop in Buenos Aires. There, Leo spent much of his spare time learning and giving his voluntary services.
Kuka was a mechanic, learned by himself. Kuka ended up a body straightener, learned by himself. Kuka ended up a welder, learned by himself. Kuka used to come here with his pan when he turn a pan and get it split. And he telling you what he want. One time you light that torch, he say no, I don't want that. And you have to adjust that torch and then weld the pan. And this man don't trade no way, this man have nothing. The man just born with that. What I say, a lot of fellas come through here. And a lot of fellas come through here when Coca was here. So when Coca, I own all the shop, but when Coca here, he look like the boss of the shop.
He give them discipline.
Yeah. Discipline, everybody silent. You don't look laughing and talking and no fatigue and
things like that.
Yeah, this is the thing why I really, up to the day, and up to this morning I was speaking about Coca.
That's right. Yeah.
When you hear I don't do my work, I go sit down with Coca. When I walk in, Coca head with me.
Yeah.
Coca will stop me from doing my work. Sometimes I vex him. Yeah, sometimes I vex. Because the way how the fella so genuine and perfect that what I will do from 9 in the morning to 11:30, I go until 9 in the morning until 2:45 because he have to see that thing original. He mustn't come back.
That's what they say. They say when he start to tune pan, he come in the morning 6 o'clock and he leave 6 o'clock in the evening.
Who can get a Sun Valley pan shed for me to paint over the all the pans. He make the price and everything. $2,800. That is $2,800. The young boys and them who come in to tune pan, who can tell them they can't work here. The date. The shed belongs to he tuning and Robin and the workmen to paint.
Yes.
They had to keep up. So we come we tuning in and thing and everybody working and thing. The second day, when I watch the fellas on them in point, it had putty gal, bones days over putty.
Yes.
I carry a whole half bag of putty gal. Who tell me to do that? Trouble with Mr. Coca. But anyhow, he laugh it out. But you know what he displeased about? You can't mix that with work.
No.
He was a barber, and he have to be the best barber.
Yeah, of course.
And outside of that guy was every kind of thing. He was a mechanic. I remember a night I going down into the Grande with my car, and they come missing bad. I went down into the Grande, and coming back out, he come in the middle of the road and he stopped me. And he said, "Kalai?" I say, "Yes, Cooks." And I call him Brother Cooks.
Right.
I say, "Yes, Brother Cooks." He said, "Why that car missing so?" I said, "Well, I don't know." I try to carry to fix. He tell me pull the bonnet. I pull the bonnet. He leave and he go inside. And he come back out with an instrument. Now I am coming out the car.
Yes.
Because I know the guy. But when I start to watch too much, right? So I want my car fix it to help me. He take his instrument and he go down inside the bonnet there. And he must be spend about 10 or 15 minutes down there inside the bonnet.
All right.
And when he done, he come out. He tell me, start. And a bounce me start and the car start to work like a dolly.
Yes. That's the kind of man you want.
That was the kind of man. He will render you assistance.
Yes.
One day we went down to Erin Beach, and there was a truck that shut down there on the beach. 4 days they said the truck there, and they did chuck in, and Coca take out the carburetor in the truck, and he repaired the carburetor for them. He check it out, he wash it, and he put it back on the truck. Truck start, truck gone. Now he will assist you.
Yes.
Go push him.
Don't push him.
Don't push him and don't look too much. Right? But he is going to give you assistance whenever he can and whatever he can. And he loves to do things for himself. He will go in the garage where they're straightening car. And he will spend time when he went off season, and he will stay there with them in the garage, helping them rub down vehicle. Next thing you know, Coca polishing and painting his own vehicle.
All voluntary work too?
Yes, and then he'll come home and fix his own.
Okay.
Paint it for himself.
Leo's strength was in his persistence and determination. Failure and giving up were not words in Leo Coker's dictionary.
But this particular issue, that always lived with me, is this day we was looking for work.
All right.
Down in a place they call the Sucetries.
You mean you and Leo and
a set of boys.
Yeah, from Buenos Aires.
From Buenos Aires.
Yeah.
They recruiting people to build road.
Yeah.
These access ways going to people, lands and things.
All right.
And all of us gone down there. And there was this guy, I don't know if he didn't like him or what. And Coca look at the guy. And he says, "Shafi boy, one day you're going to call me Mr. Leo Coca."
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he said, one day you will call me Mr. Leo Cooker.
Right.
And he leave, and you know how he dey walk with his short foot. He pull out again, and he gone, you know. And he came out. He didn't get any work on at that particular period,
Right.
and he survived.
Mm-hmm.
And he continued trying whatever he had to try. He continued doing whatever he had to do.
So Leo Coker left Buenos Aires with a chisel and a hammer in his hands. First, he made it for Marabella, a town on the outskirts of San Fernando. But he did not do well there. Steel band men recognized his talents, but jealousy got in the way. Dauntless Leo Coker left Marabella and headed for Port of Spain with hammer and chisel in hands. Everyone knew at the time that the best was always in the north. But Leo Coker had super confidence in himself. What would you have thought if you were a member of one of the popular steel bands in Port of Spain and seeing a small man with hammer and chisel in hand saying he can tune your pans? Which was worse, when you asked him where he's from, he responded, Buenos Aires. What's that? You might have replied. We never heard of such a place before. Is it in Trinidad?
I'd imagine to know that such a fella that come from so far. Because you coming from a place as Buenos Aires
All right.
and going up in the north and to be a good pan tuner, you have to be something else.
All right. So what would you have done? You never hear the man. You never hear his history.
Right.
Yeah, but he coming to make a first thing, and you telling you with his own self-confidence that I can tune pan.
Yes.
I can do a good job. Give me a try. What would you have done? This man, little man from the south. What
Well,
would you, if you were in that shoes?
If I was a fella from the north,
Yes, in that shoes. What would you have said?
I would have given him a chance, and that's the chance he get from Keteli All Stars. The fella really give him a chance to tune for tune. And when the fella give him the chance to tune, he come back and tell me, boy, them fellas them like the pan. I say, when I tell him so you may say you ain't got no problem with him whatsoever. He say, boy, when I went there by the man then watching me as if I talking where I'm from, and like if I know nothing but pan, because we know but pan is north, not south. So he say, yeah, so say we really surprised them.
All right.
And turned out to be real good.
Very good.
That was it for he there, no?
Yes, that was it.
That was it for he right there. That chance he get there, that was it.
That was the chance.
And he proved to be very good to them, so from there,
The word spread.
yeah, it was spread that this fella is a very good fella. So he started getting other.
Leo met with a lot of resentments, but those did not erode his tenacity. A window of hope was opened for Leo Coker when a sympathetic member of one of the large steel bands in Port of Spain thought he had nothing to lose by throwing a discarded pan at Leo's feet. You say you can tune pan? See what you can do with this one, he muttered. That was the break of a lifetime for Leo Coker. When he had finished tuning the pan, he handed it back to his sympathizer. Beams of light shone on the sympathizer's face as he called his friends to listen to the melodious tunes coming from the notes of that pan, the quality of which they had never heard before. Leo Coker was on the road to success.
So, Errol, I understand that you knew Leo Coker.
Well, very well, one could say.
Like, how long have you known him?
Well, somewhere around 1969, one could say that was the first year that he started to work for Cateli Trinidad All Stars, or Trinidad All Stars, we should say.
You mentioned it was the first year he started to work with Cateli All
Yes,
Stars.
as a matter of fact, Trinidad All Stars was the first one in Port of Spain that Leo Coker ever worked for. Some people say it's Tokyo and whatnot. He had a good run with Tokyo, but in 1969, Leo Coker first worked with Trinidad All Stars. Somewhere between 1969 and 1971, something happened with him and the then skipper of the band, Neville Jules. Since Neville Jules had migrated,
All right.
as a consequence of that, he had stopped working with the band.
All right. Now, how Leo, a man from the backwoods, apparently get on your scene?
Well, as I said, Leo worked with us previously, you know.
Yes, I know, but
In
how did you
1969.
get him to work for you? That's what I mean. A man from
Yes,
the backwoods.
yeah.
You wouldn't take him just like that to work unless he has a name somewhere.
Well, obviously, we were happy with the first set of instruments, the job that he did way back in 1969 and 70.
Mhm.
In 1969, we ordered from Leo about 25 to 30 tenors. As he would say, that's the biggest work you ever get in your life in terms of making pan for a steel band.
All right.
He had to, he was contracted in
Mhm.
to tune over all the pans in the band,
Okay.
right? So we went immediately after Carnival in 1969. Something like about 35 tenors, about 25 double seconds.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, he is the one who introduced in All Stars
Uh-huh.
the cellos.
Okay.
Since we never used to use cellos, we used to use double guitar.
All right.
So he transformed that
Mhm.
and he introduced cellos. So he had a whole comprehensive orchestra to build, to
So,
rebuild.
so was cello something of his making, or cello was there already?
It was his design. There were cellos in other instruments, but we never used to use cellos. We would have used double guitars.
Uh-huh.
But since we were going into the classical mode,
Uh-huh.
in order to get that range of instrument,
All right.
you had to get cellos.
Yes.
You had to get an instrument for carrying more than just 14 notes.
Yes.
Right? So the cellos are going to do something like about 28 notes. Right? 8 notes on each pan. So we had a range so that we could afford to go into the mode of classical and not struggling for notes as it were when you play the double guitar.
Okay.
Right? So he was asked to introduce the cello pan, then he introduced the cello pan, he tuned the cello pans.
Okay.
Just tell about preparation from the stage from Bamboo Bamboo to the steel drum, which was available because of the oil field we have in Trinidad. Because the containers, which is the oil drum, this was trite, so we could turn it into making pan. Started by sinking it out. Now as you see, this drum starts sinking in. But before it was pushing out, the first fella started doing that was P-Simon, Winston's P-Simon, pushing the drum out to get the notes. The first fella came up with the idea to sink it down like this was Elimaya from Ingredients. Sinking down like this. Now this was the deepest a drum could have go before. Nobody ever thought of a drum to depth of 6, 7, 8, 9 inches. As the thing went along, in order to get room and so on to get more notes, because you need more notes on a pan, you have to sing it deeper and to make room, get space. Therefore, we started sinking drum deeper. And mark it out, mark out your notes, your sizes, so as you see here on the outside. Then shape them out in different sizes. Groove it out. The same with the smaller ones inside. This is a tenor pan, which is tenor pan, kettle pan, lead pan, whatever. In order to temper this, so you burn the steel here, burn the pan here. You have to wait a while, let it burn for 2 minutes. Take it down from the fire and allow it to cool before you can do anything to it. So what I'm going to do now is take it out of the fire. So I have to wait here for it to cool. So I'm going to tune the pan, stop tuning the pan. This is where I'm going to start to design my tuning. Knock the notes off. Yeah, the music here is from the tenor pan. But you heard a while ago, it's from the tenor pan. It's the same pan you heard a while ago, but this is one of his chrome plated, which everybody more or less would like to have. As compared to the one that they have at the shows and look sort of awful. Right? Which wouldn't go for because you see my fingers how it nasty, your fingers the same way nasty your clothes. So more or less, if you want an instrument, a true instrument, then more or less finish, you don't want one like this. Chrome finish, complete as we call it, which you get the same. So there from that, we decided to order drums from the factory that manufacture drums here in Trinidad. They call them vanilla. We moved to something which is more economical to us. We use the both sides. This is an FI drum. This here, both sides. So you get 2 pans from one drum. So therefore there's no wastage except the center piece. We are showing a while. This is the part comes from the special made. Both 2 pans from one drum. So you just have this piece. What I'm going to do here now is to show you. I'll show you the pan, the pan. I'm going to show you the other pan that accompany me.
What pan is that?
The cello pan or the treble guitar, they call it treble, the smoking tree. It's a short cello ready. So this is one side. There are 2 others going. And then you have here the second pan, this is the alto. They work two together from here. But it's only one side. As you may notice here, they're cutting different lengths. And the length matter with the sound. Because the longer the instrument is, the deeper the tone is. So in this way, you can see. In length, you have here actually 6 inches or 7 inches a difference in length here. So this determines the tone of the pan in depth, more or less, because this one go lower in tone, because you see notes is bigger. As a result of the size of notes is a bass instrument. This is one show the first piece. Second pan or double second. So shorten it a bit because you want more lift in the sound. I showed you the tenor pan, the cello pan, the second pan. What I didn't show you is the double tenor, the bass pan, the quadraphonic, and so on. Because this is just a yard where I do tuning. More or less we are able to see that in the steel band yard or the house where they keep the pans.
Now you mentioned several other pans that you didn't show me here because you haven't got it right now in your yard. Now, could you give a short rundown on what the functions of these several pans you noted there, what part they play in the music process or in the band process?
Well, the tenor pan, as you know, it carries melody. Like in the violin, you have first violin, second violin. The tenor pan is coming the first violin. The double tenor coming the second violin. Double second might play the same part. And you go down the line. Well, you have the guitar pan, it brings chords. Double second you play chords, so a little melody and chords. And you go down the line with the bass, so you know bass is rhythm, keep timing, and so on. That way you get a drive from the bass, and rhythm is what gives you the drive in the music. Because bass is timing and rhythm as well.
As we were saying, Leo is really from what we call the backwoods. Bush, Buenos Aires, and to come from Buenos Aires to say I can tune pan and then get somebody in one of the most, status band in Trinidad to say, oh yes, well, tune my pan. What is the bridge between Buenos Aires and that kind of thing? City, quality of tuning pan.
Yeah, well, to begin, his good friend, Foots, is the guy who introduced us to Leo way back in 1969.
All right.
Now, at that time, nobody knew Leo.
All right.
But the skipper, Neville Jules, heard his instruments and he decided they were very good.
All right.
Hence the reason I said that he really started working for us, first band in Tongue in 1969. Somewhere along the line, the relationship became fragmented. When Jules migrated, another skipper, Hamilton Alexander, took over. And so Leo went his way. He went to Carlos Rose's band, Flamingos,
All right.
and went back tuning for them.
All right.
So when he was tuning for Carlos Rose band and whatnot, he used to be in Tongue, He used to be up in St. John Road. And he told me they get a little house frame, a little ranch frame, and he stayed there and he tuned in for them.
Yes.
Those days, Flamingos making a lot of records. You
All right.
understand?
Yes.
They were Lever Brothers, the Flamingos, making a lot of records and whatnot.
Yeah.
But what Leo felt is that while Lever Brothers was getting popular and whatnot, he really didn't get in the breakthrough that he wanted. The recognition from Lever Brothers because they wasn't doing things. So he wanted to get to a band that he figure, you understand?
That will fit you.
That he could fit you in. Hence the reason after us he was dealing with Tokyo, Carib Tokyo.
All right.
But still, you understand? Still nothing was happening. Until I reapproached him in 1976. We were going to a concert, Classical Jewels. We had a series of Classical Jewels concerts we used to give in Queen Soul. And I figured I wanted a reliable tuner. I wanted new instruments and whatnot.
Yes.
So I went back to him. I spoke to him and he told me about the bad impression he had with Jews and this. And I said, I understand all that, but you're dealing with somebody else now. You're dealing with me.
Yes.
You can't judge me on
that kind of thing.
You understand? And I told him outline what it is we're doing. We come out to give a big classical jewels in Queen's Soul, a big classical concert. We want good instruments. We figure you the man, but give you them kind of instruments. You understand?
Yeah.
So despite the fact that he was from Marina back, he was known.
At that time.
Yes,
yeah,
everybody was saying, oh God, boy, you tuning them pants for Lever Brothers, them pants song ain't good. Yeah, brother, that's it. But the thing is, nobody was doing nothing. You understand? To expose him, to give him the kind of exposure that you want till he came with All Stars.
Okay.
And after the Classical Jewels we had in 78, we got a second set of pants from him in 79. We won Panorama in 80. We won Festival in 80. We won Panorama in 81.
Oh, yes.
You understand?
Yes.
So, I'm telling you how we go. We came second in 82 in Festival.
All right.
So, that, everybody started asking, boy, who that man? Everybody started running down Leo Coca.
Okay. The man behind
Casablanca. Solo.
Harmonize.
Everybody just running for him.
Yes.
But one thing, he never neglected us.
Okay.
You know, some other tuners would just pick a bundle and run because,
Because this one thing and that one thing.
One thing in
yeah. But he stayed loyal to your thing.
Definitely. He stayed loyal to All Stars.
Yeah.
Regardless of wherever, because he said it. He said, this is the band.
My name is Owen Surratt. At present, I'm the leader manager of the Solo Panman Steel Orchestra. Solo Panman Steel Orchestra is an offshoot of Solo Harmonized Steel Orchestra. I came from Solo Harmonized Steel Orchestra approximately 12 years ago. From Harmonized to Panman. Panman is a relatively new orchestra on the steel band scene.
How did you get to know, man? You know Leo Coca. He's from Buenos Aires. Yeah. And if you have been to Buenos Aires, most people think that it's behind God's back.
Yeah.
How did you get to meet Mr. Coca?
Okay, actually, I met Leo sometime in his early 70s through the then captain of solo harmonites, Mr. Joseph Reno. He is the one who introduced me to Leo when we went down to Buenos Aires to ask Leo to work for us, to work for Harmonites. And from that time, at that time when we went there, he didn't do much work for us. One of the deterrents was, of course, you have to go down to Buenos Aires. But we got Coco's reputation preceded him. I think we got that from Alan Gervais.
Alan Gervais,
Alan
also
Gervais.
from South.
Also from Point, he's from Point. And
Yeah.
Alan was the one, I think, through Alan we got to know Leo.
Okay.
Because Alan used to work with the Harmonites. Yeah.
Well, a man of Leo's status, you know, he was a small man, and he was from way south. To cross the Caroni and come into Port of Spain to make it big, isn't that a great phenomenon? What do you think?
Oh yes. Coca, as far as we are concerned, his work is unparalleled when you talk about steel band making and steel band blending, instrument blending. As a matter of fact, I spoke about meeting him in the 70s, but when I actually took over Solo Harmonites as captain, then I went to Leo Coca. He was the sole blender for our band for many years. At least we had a falling out. I had a falling out with the regular Trinidad blender, because he was from the area.
Okay.
And when we decided to take Leo to do the blending of our instruments. And I'm yet to find a tuner who can blend instruments as well as Neal did.
I'm the manager and leader of Exodus Steel Band. We have been around for 26 years. We have built this band from scratch, from nothing. When we started talking, we had not a single instrument. We acquired instruments and we built a name for ourselves. And apart from that, I have been the deputy chairman of the National Carnival Commission for the past, almost 5 years, and resigned from that position just like 3 or 4 months ago, in November last year that was. So that's really my position, and I'm a real aficionado of local culture, Trinidad and Tobago culture, spreading between Pan and Calypso. Yeah, well, Leo was among the top 5 steel band tuners in the world as far as I'm concerned. You know, it was Leo Coca, it was Wallace Austin, it was Bertie Marshall, it was Butch Kellman, and Lincoln Noel. Those were the 5 top tuners of the day. And then you had Herman Guppy, who is also a very good tuner if you want. But these are the very top tuners. And Leo stood head and shoulder with all of these people. You know, I will not venture to say that Leo was better than any of them or that they were better than him. Because in their own way, they have their individual strengths, you know. But they were masters of this trade, and Leo was head and heels with all of them. Very well respected by each of them, and very well respected in the steel band community in Trinidad and Tobago, and I dare say in the world, because through me also Leo would get jobs. I would get jobs for Leo through international contacts and send Leo out to especially like Jamaica, Barbados, Grenada, and so on to tune bands through people who we know, who we knew in the steel band business, and people with whom we have an Exodus as association with in other countries.
As we look at those 5 greats, of course they would have their own speciality. In what areas that Leo excelled?
Leo excelled really in the frontline instruments, I would say. He was very good, like I say, in all, but he excelled in bringing brightness to these frontline instruments. You know, and he usually tuned his instruments slightly sharper than the other tuners, and the instruments were always brighter than if I may say so, compared to other steel bands,
He had a warm sound.
the instrument, he had this unique sound. Well, all the tuners, and this is why I say in fairness to all of them, they all have their own unique sound.
Okay, we know what I would consider Leo a Johnny came lately because there were many good pan tuners before him. He met them there. Now, you understand? There were many good pan tuners before Leo Coker. He met them there. How do you rank him among those top tuners of the country?
As a matter of fact, you said he met them there, but he was, equal among his peers.
Right.
Equal. When at the time when we look at pan tuners and we say if we have to count the master tuners on one, and we'll count them on one hand.
All right.
5 people. And Coker name must be among that. Was always among that 5.
That 5.
Right? Yeah, as you say, he met them, he caught up with them. He was just as good as, or even, I mean, we don't compare it in that sense. You don't want to compare and say this one is
better than this one or so.
Right? But what stands out with Neal is that he was as good as any and better than many. And his business acumen, the way how he operated,
Professionally.
the way how he operated, and he gave you encouragement to deal with him. And not, he didn't used to operate probably as a, for one of a better word, a Viking vibe kind of arrangement as you would have with the other tuners, other good tuners.
I know.
And you have that kind of arrangement and they would disappoint you, you would come to, you have to do your pans, they would disappoint you, you have to make pans for you. You can't get in on time. Not so with Leo Coker.
Okay. How you compare his attitude with that or those of other famous tuners that you have met?
Atrocious, I'm telling you. Vexatious. Because some of the guys, they say they coming by here this morning, they ain't come. If they come, they come in 11 o'clock. You understand? They have no regard or no respect for time or any kind of thing. So you understand?
Yeah.
11 o'clock they come hustling, boy, if you know what happened, boy, dead, all kind of excuse. You understand? When they come, from there they tune 2 pan, 1 pan, they sit down. They want to hold talk, they want to this. And at the end of the day,
nothing done.
You understand? At the end of the day, nothing done. The other come back the next day, and the other come back the next day. And so he wasn't like that. He used to finish the job.
And what do you think contributed to his greatness?
Well, I think he was very disciplined, very constructive. And he was honest too, in the sense that when he comes into your pan at say 6 o'clock in the morning, from 6 in the morning, a man coming from Erin, and he reach in front of the pan yard already, that means he leaving home from since about 4.
Yes.
And he sit down there and he waiting, and from the time you come, he say, you ready? 7 o'clock, 6:30, anytime you reach, you open up your pan yard and he start to work. He would stop for about 20-25 minutes to eat something, because he used to work with his own food, his own water, his own everything.
So he didn't used to buy anything anyway? He came well stocked?
Yes, he had everything that he needed. For his day away from home, he have it. So when he come, he asking you for you not to stay there. He bring your own water.
Yes.
You understand? He bring you food. So you have to leave your work
to go and get
look
food.
for something to eat. Or something. I go and buy a chicken and chips there for me. Go and buy a this. You have everything.
Everything
so
on
he take
spot.
about 20 minutes, go in the car, check out what you have to do. And then he say, all right, let me go again. And he wouldn't stop working till 7, 8 o'clock. If 9 in the night, it requires for him to finish the job, he go in at no extra charge. No extra cost.
So that was the kind of man he was.
Definitely. And discipline, he on time.
Yes.
You understand?
So that's a key factor for his success.
Definitely. It was constructive too, in the sense that he was making a business out of this.
Yes.
So obviously, he knew the avenues he had to cover. And he would have a list of all the bands he had to work for and the dates that he's supposed to come from there.
So, like I said, he wanted to ensure always that the instruments were well kept. and he would teach the guys how to keep the instruments and how the instruments should be maintained. And he would go so far to take the sticks that we play the instruments with, and check them out and redo the sticks and ensure that people are playing with sticks which are rubbered properly. Or for the basses, you know, the proper rubber. Sometimes he would bring his own rubber or his own balls to make sticks for the basses. He took that kind of care and that kind of interest in the band. And that's why I said it was not a case of money. If it was a case of money, after he had tuned his instruments and blended his instruments for competitions, it would not have mattered, you know. Also, I know, like, at the end of a competition, he would call and talk about it, you know, what he felt may have been wrong or what may have gone right when we won and when we did well. And if he felt that we might have been, you know, hard-pressed and had a hard luck kind of time, sometimes, you know, that's the way it happens. The judges don't necessarily hear what the public hear. He would call and talk about those kind of things. So, you know, you knew for the bands that he worked for, it was really not just a case of money at all, you know.
Do you think he was loved by the ordinary member of the band?
Yes, certainly. He was highly respected and cared for a lot by I know the members of this band. I know certainly for All Stars, you know, and those are the bands that he had, you know, relationships with, long relationships with. I don't know much about the people from the other bands. I knew he also tuned pans for Tokyo for a long while, and then I had introduced him to Panites, solo Panites, and he did instruments for them too. But he was always respected by the players from the band and from the management and the committee of this band, and I know for a fact also from Trinidad All Stars. I was saying one of the very remarkable things about Leo is that, you know, he was somebody you could rely on. You know, he was dependable. If I made an appointment with Leo, as I used to do, in order to steal a march on the opponents, I used to make arrangements for Leo to come here to blend 4 and 5 years in advance, so that other steel bands will not be able to get those days, because I always know when Carnival is going to be.
So that popular he was?
He was that popular, but the reason I did it is that I did not want my competition to get him on the dates, the critical dates for blending. So I wanted to do that. And what I'm saying about the remarkable thing about him, when those dates were marked and agreed with him, I mean, I could, you know, like day follows night. I could come here at 6 o'clock on that day, you know, for an appointment which had been made 3 years hence, and Leo would be in the panyard without having to remind him, and that was remarkable. And it's the same thing that happened with all the other steel bands that he worked with, and with those who were organized enough to arrange their appointments that way for him. And he never at all went back on an appointment and say, went to another band when he had an appointment with you. He never did that. He was a man of his word.
And principle.
And principle.
With Coke, I don't think the money was one of the prime thing. I think the prime thing he had pride. He did pride in his work.
The work itself.
Right? Yeah, he had a certain amount of pride in his work, and I think the money was secondary in that how he operated with us, that he had a fee for a day's work, all right, and pay for that day's work, and he would give you that day's work from 6 a.m. to when he finishes, normally 6 p.m. in the afternoon. Okay. Right? And I mean, from my experience with him too, you know, if Neal, and another thing too, we will have to book carnival blending or blending of the parts for any occasion we have during the year. We have to book that with Leo. Leo had a directory, diary, and you have to go down in that diary
And once you know the man, he's so organized. We would book Carnival next year. This year. We have to book our dates to blend
in advance.
Yes, in advance.
A year in advance.
A year in advance. Yes, we have to do that. And so peculiar he was that you would forget that you booked the 24th of February with Leo Coca to come and blend. And at 5 to 6 in the morning, your phone will ring. Oh, when? What happened? I'm on the panyard. You know, that is the kind of, that is the kind of man. You don't have to, you won't have to go back with him and tell him, don't forget Tuesday or don't forget to come in. Right? So you have to keep a diary. You have to keep your own diary and go through your diary and say, oh, this date, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this is Coca's date. And without calling him to remind him anything, you go up in your panyard
and you know that he's there.
And you know that he was there. That is one of the most marvelous things about Neal Coca.
They all had their own units. But did Leo add anything to the pan industry? I know some people added the this note and some people sung the pan deeper than everybody else. Some people add the cello. Some people. What did Leo add to the steel band?
But to my knowledge, I don't know Leo as having added anything new to the industry. And I may be wrong, but not to my knowledge. I do not know. What he did to the industry and to the tuning is you know, like the top tuners, you know, when you get an instrument tuned by any of these people, they were really well tuned instruments, very well tuned instruments. Yeah.
Along the history of pan tuning, we have had several people like Elie Manette and these other great, you know. Some of them have left their legacy with us today, from putting the notes on the pan to sinking the pan deep so that you can get many more notes on the pan, whereas you would get 10 or whatsoever, just the mere scale, you get in the whole scale, you know, on a pan because you sink it. So we are looking at Leo now. Did he add anything as such to the pan world?
As I mentioned before, that he was a member of the standardization committee, and that in itself brought his views, different views, to bear on the whole question of standardization.
Okay.
Sadly, that committee was disbanded and nothing and didn't reach as far as we would have liked it to reach. But as a matter of fact, and one thing about him too, what people mentioned too, is that he had his own peculiar styling when he met it. Not that he would not blend bands on the first styling, but he had his own peculiar styling, and what he brought, that's what he brought, new and different styling to the table.
Okay.
Right? That's what he brought. He brought new to the table.
You mean when you say different styling, tuning notes?
Note placement, styling of note placement. Yeah.
Okay.
His styling was different from the fourth and fifth styling when I use now.
Right.
I'm not too on the technical aspect. I'm more administrator too, but being around steel band, I have a fair idea.
The fourth and the fifth.
The fourth and fifth.
Which wasn't existing before that time, you mean?
Yeah.
Which, when I say existing, I mean steel band just use the ordinary scale, you know, do, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, and things like that. But all the A sharp
and the fourth
flat.
And fifth is the note placement.
Yeah.
And that was long time. That came in with Anthony Williams was the one.
Okay, Anthony
Williams was the one who started with the spider web pan.
Yes.
He started with the fourth and fifth, you know.
All right.
Fourth and fifth styling of the instrument. But Leonin used to manufacture instrument according to that styling.
Yes.
And a different
styling. So okay. So what we are getting into now, he was very instrumental in the standardization of pan, because he couldn't put something a C over there when, I mean, other persons will put a C over here. They have to agree that if you come from Timbuktu and you take up a pan, you should be able to play it.
Well, that's one of his role in as far as the standardization committee.
Oh, so he contributed to that kind of thing?
He contributed immensely to that. Yes.
Oh, I see.
But Leo should do everything we say. If you don't want a wife to sing for him,
yes,
because you mightn't sing the pan how he wanted sung. You understand? He was very particular
About that.
about that. He had to take his time and sing his own instruments. You see, he wasn't studying. It wasn't a money-making thing for him.
For him.
Despite the fact that he was living
Making
off of
money,
that.
but
But he got a certain amount of
of
enjoyment
satisfaction
and
and
satisfaction
satisfaction
from
from
what
what he
we're
did.
doing. He take
Yeah.
pride in the instruments.
Yes.
Because when he finish a pan and he tell you play that, and you played it, he used to stand up at the side and shake his head.
That
Wait,
is it.
what you think? Wait. Yeah.
Yes, that is it.
Yeah,
That's
the satisfaction
that he got in
had
it. You
by
know.
what he doing. You understand?
Yeah.
And everything he do, he keep changing. It keep evolving.
All the
He
time.
always come with a different idea.
So he never met up his plateau then. He was always
No, he was
room
on the,
above his head.
He was
to
on
go.
the move all the
time.
time. All the time. Continuously looking for something new,
New.
some new experimentation, something else he do. We do make a new instrument and he finds say, you see, well, I do so and so, you know, I trying this and trying that. You understand? So he was always exploring.
So you think he add something to the pan tuning culture here? He left some. Huh?
Definitely.
What you say most he added to the already field of pan experience here? You mentioned the cello business. What he actually added, you know, like pan grew
Innovation.
over the years. You know,
Yeah.
somebody do the spider thing, somebody know about, well, sinking the pan, you're going to get more notes and so on. What you say that perhaps what legacy he left in
I
the
would
pan?
think, I think the thing that he had on most of the tuners is the brilliance as a tone.
Oh, okay.
Brilliance at tone, particularly from the inside notes and the power he derived from the instruments.
Oh, okay. Is it something that has died with him, or something that the pan community will benefit in future? In other words, they'll be able to reproduce his experience, or is it something, a craft that singly died with the man, and that's
Well,
it?
I want to believe so, because putting it by frankly speaking, nobody has ever mastered Leo Coker's instruments. You know.
Oh, okay.
Most tuners will tell you it's the most difficult instrument to work on. As a matter of fact, if Leo is not available, that is the other thing too. You should tell you when you're going away. You know, you're going away for a week. You go in Jamaica, or you go in Antigua for a week. You won't be back. So if there's anything, so he will fix you up to hold you there until
you come. Yes.
Because anytime he leave and you carry them instruments by somebody else, and they mash it up, you see the other side.
The trouble is real trouble. Yes.
He turned one time. I tell you, because the kind of work he had to do
To bring that back. It's just like making a new pan.
And you see, instruments is such a thing that the more hammer you get, more lash you get with the hammer, you weaken the steel.
Yes.
That's true. You weaken the tension of the steel.
That's
So the less licks you get with a hammer, is the better for you.
Yeah.
So when you have here alone dealing with your instrument, he know what he have to do. When he hit a note, tang tang, he know what you have to do. Bam bam, two hammer, the note come back. Anybody else who carry that, they have to carry it to them style. You know? They
Yes.
have to move it off their teeth.
He
Because
tried
they
to
don't
put-
understand
they
his
don't
thing.
understand his
So they have to carry it
to
to
their
them
style.
thing. And there's a lot of licks
And
on
they're
it.
moving, yes. You know, he told me once that he was there somewhere, and this woman from one of those big classical orchestra, she was a violinist.
Oh,
You know, and then he said,
Grady.
and he says to her, "Let me see your violin," and he took the violin and he took the tune, take it, tune, and she said, "No, that's not right. No, that's not right." She said, "Look." When he gave her that violin, she said, "This is not my violin. I've never heard it play like that." You know, he had a master, a good hearing. You know.
I was just saying, as I was saying earlier, one of the greatest gift for me, or the greatest reward for me, was to tune for this band at a time when one of the band won two competitions at the same year, 1980. The music festival, which is only classics, judged by foreign judge, and the local competition, which is the Carnival Panman competition. As a result of that, the government at Trinidad and Tobago decided the band must get a big tour, which more or less I will call a world tour, even though it's not that, I will call it that. And they decided to send us to countries like America, Canada, Alaska, Japan, China, India, the both parts, Bombay and Delhi, Singapore, England, and back to Trinidad.
Which country in all those countries, in your estimation, was more or most impressed by the steel band?
Well, all the countries, of course, America always has steel band. Canada the same. Japan was something for them. Alaska we couldn't enjoy there too much, it was too cold. Extremely cold. China, although it was very cold, but they had a sort of exchange, cotton exchange with Trinidad and Tobago. So more or less they wanted to get steel off the ground because they wanted to establish a band in China because they was given a few pans as a gift from Trinidad and Tobago. So the pan more or less was more or less a motivating factor for the people over there who wanted to start this steel band. India, well, it was more or less the same, but they wanted to raise no band over there. But again, in India, you couldn't assess how much they loved the band because they was playing for, more or less the elite. England, well, of course, people, you have bands from Trinidad, or people in Trinidad who reside in England have steel bands. So there's nothing new to it. But I'll say China.
So a while ago we were speaking about Leo, and you said that we were talking about his keen sense of observation and hearing and so on. And you were just about to give an example.
Well, what I wanted to add is that Leo usually would blend or tune with what you would call a tuning fork.
All right.
While most of the other tuners would use this big electrical instrument they call the stroke.
Okay.
And one of the things that they couldn't understand is how it is he used to attain this kind of unique sound.
Okay.
By using this pitch pipe.
Okay.
And they have the big sophisticated thing, and they could never get the kind of sound
that
and
he
the
would
power
get.
that he would get. You understand?
Yes.
I can remember a time we were going to a festival and the musical director came and he brought his big stroke from the police band and he wanted Leo to use it and we were thinking and thinking because he wanted, he was feeling, the musical director would have felt more confident. Because this is a festival. We have people with excellent musical ear and whatnot.
All right.
But Leo say he happy, comfortable
with what he
uses.
Yeah, because he
knows it. And the musical director was very disappointed he wasn't too happy until we went into the festival. And we went out of the festival. Win the festival, and one of the comments that was Junicator and them made is the exceptionally good tone of the instrument. They have never heard anything so brilliant. You understand?
Yes.
So this is something that tuners themselves couldn't understand. How it is
he got to discover.
And he had a unique tone. You understand? And he had that kind of power.
Where he got it from, and
but
nobody
that's it.
could.
Well, all one could surmise is that it was a gift.
Yes,
as he would say. That's my gift from the work, man. That's my gift. It was because he could do that.
Because nobody could reproduce that kind of thing.
Definitely, you understand? Nobody, and they have all the big sophisticated electrical
thing like that.
And he have a little pitch pipe. But this.
The airs, that's the key factor. So you think we have lost something?
Yes. I think that we in particular, I have to talk from my band, that kind of unique tone that we had. We don't have it. I'm not saying that the instruments are bad, you understand? But we had a distinctive tone that people was able to identify us. From the time we strike up, people say, that is what
that's Kuka. And that's all
that is all stars. No, we don't have that.
That's what. So what will happen to pan tuning of bands again, all of them will be of the same level, that they won't be that quality?
Well, most likely, yes. The tone would be practically the same because the tuners that they have there now, Guppy and Kelman and them, they tune for a lot of bands.
Okay.
Right? So, Leo Cooper never dealt with plenty in steel bands. He dealt with about, during Panorama, he used to deal with about 3 or 4 steel bands.
And that's it.
It was us, Exodus, Pan Knights, and probably some other 2 other steel bands.
And they always plays first, second, third or
all
something?
his bands and them used to be right up there in the running. You understand? So that in itself tells the story, you know what I mean?
I guess.
Yeah. It's nice to go in the nightclub. No, he wasn't that kind of guy. No, he wasn't that kind of nightclub guy. He was a guy. He loved things, but he had his way of doing things. Sometimes we criticize him. Sometimes you have to admire him. Because he will have, I met him one time in Panorama. And those days I was drinking. And I never drink beer so yet. Really, every minute he coming back with beers. When you think of him, his trunk loaded. He motor trunk. And he have them there calling. When we finish, we take the bottle, go put it in the trunk, and he come back with 2 fresh one. You understand?
He's drinking that.
Yeah, but he's not going to take his money
to
go inside there and buy a beer for $10.
All right.
Because he have the power to drive his car.
Yes.
Inside the compound.
Okay.
Right? That is the privilege. Those are the conditions that he don't. He's not going to come inside and leave his car outside.
Yes.
So he have the privilege to come and drive his car in the compound.
Yeah.
So he's going to buy his beer in the grocery. Economics. Put it in a tub. Buy a piece of ice, put it to cool, and have something to drink. And if you want to give a man a drink, you have one to give him. You can't vex with that. No, that is economics. Why should I come and pay $10 for something I could pay $2.50 for?
And that was the kind of man you were.
That is the man you're dealing with. That is the man you're dealing with. So you can't say, oh, amigo, yeah, give me a beer, give you 10. Yeah, but when it cost him $100, the whole case was it cost him about $24. You understand?
Yeah.
Now he look at the economical side
of life.
Yes. And how to preserve and how to get the same thing for less.
Yes.
Yes,
right?
yes.
So
yes.
Leo would have the same kind of quality too.
Yes, we have a difference but close. Well, after he stopped making pans and because of illness and age and so on, he recommended that I make the pans for the band and he will just blend them, that is retuning when they go out of tune.
Okay.
You know?
Because in Leo's last, when I say, well, a number of years anyway, Leo did not have the strength to go through and sink the pan and make the groove and so on. So what we did is Herman made the instruments and Leo used to blend them for the competitions, you know. So all these instruments here are instruments that Leo would have had his hand on really, you know, and blended over time. All those instruments are all up there, you know. You know, at times he got in his latter years, he got a little miserable in that he started to talk to us about other people blending the instruments, and he knew that other people were blending the instruments, which, you know, I know was not at all so, but for whatever reason, you know, he had this thing in his head that other people might have been blending the instruments, and he really got a little miserable in his last few years with that kind of thing. Nonetheless, we always had a great relationship, you know, and at the end of the day, when he was finished with blending, I mean, Leo blended his whole band when we go to Panorama, as he did with All Stars too. These are big steel bands, as you know. These are leading steel bands in the country. And, you know, we go to Panorama with 120 players, you know, and he would blend these bands all by himself from the tenors all the way down to basses, all the middle instruments, the double seconds, double tenors, cellos, guitars, tenor basses, what have you. He would even go to the congas and say, I don't like how those congas are. He would interfere with the congas and tune the congas in pitch. When you got a blend from Leo, you're ready for a competition. You are ready.
Mr. Ainsworth Mohammed, can you recall any particular story that will highlight Leo's life?
Well, actually, the incidents that I remember very clearly and stands out in my mind would be the fact Leo was a jack of all trades. And I remember one time, my car, when I was working in the San Fernando area, my car got hit. And the fender was dented badly. And I went to Leo for some other matter, pan-related, of course. And Leo said to me, I can do that, I can fix this car for you. I said, no, I will take it to the street. He said, no, I can fix this car for you. Bring back the car tomorrow, and I'll fix the car for you. And this pan tuner man, who, because I trusted him, and I know the person that he was, you know, I took the car there, and I can tell you, when I came back for the car in the evening, the car was very well straightened and painted with the identical color paint as the original. And that was really amazing. I remember also, like I tell you, he's a jack of all trades. When at times we would go down there, a couple of us, we would go down because, you know, I want company when I'm driving to go down to see him about some matter. And he would see somebody and say, boy, you need a haircut, you know? And Leo will go and get his barbering implements and cut your hair right there. Those are the kind of things, you know. He was a pan tuner, a master pan tuner. He was a car straightener. He would fix the car if the car isn't idling properly. He would tell you, open the bonnet, and he will open that bonnet and you know, fix the car for you, tune the car for you. He was a barber, you know. I'd never seen him repair shoes, but I'm pretty certain he could do all that if he had to.
If he had to. The thing about it, one of the jokes, as I said, we have, you could sit down and discuss anything with him.
Yes.
But he would leave his work to talk with you. So if you want a palm blender, they said, don't go and talk to Coco for me, please. Nobody interfere with Coco, because he will talk with you any subject you put forward, right?
Yes.
So that's a little joke we had about him. But that was, I mean, from fixing a car.
Yes.
You know, your vehicle.
All right.
You know, you tell him, yeah, you come in with a vehicle, here, crack, and he said, what happened to the car? And he would go through the whole thing about his car. He does his own repairs, maintenance, everything with his car. Right. His trunk was always filled with all kind of tools. Yes. So that it was a peculiar, very, very, very peculiar person. You know, somebody who, how to say, was set in his ways. He knew what he knew, and he would discuss it. And one of the things he would always say, don't get me wrong, you know. No. Let me. Why you think that? Let me hear why you disagree with me. and that argument can go on for hours. When you have to convince him that you have a different. And this is aside of the pan.
Okay.
Aside of the pan.
That's the man himself.
Yeah, the man himself. As far as the pan is concerned, he was so. And as I said, as far as tuners are concerned, and looking back now in retrospect, he was very particular. He would talk about. I mean, we used to say quarrel. About the sticks. He wants to see the sticks that the players used to play the pan. Okay. You know, and he would bring his own sticks. He would bring sticks and give us how to wrap the sticks, how to play the pan, where to hit the note to get the best effect. And you know, as I said, the players used to say, "Gosh, boy, Coco real miserable." You know. But then when we understand, you know,
what it is.
Yes, he wanted things. And to get the best out of the pan, you know, where to hit the note and all of that. He was always very, very, very particular about that.
With all his success, Leo Coker never forgot his roots and his humble upbringing. This was the house he grew up in, and of which he took special care to preserve as a perpetual reminder of his early upbringing.
A seat of the grandfather?
Grandfather, yes.
What do you mean by that?
Well, he always had this in remembrance of his grandfather.
Oh, so that's where his grandfather lived?
Yes, the grandfather lived here. And then he lived next.
Okay, so that was his early beginnings?
Beginning, yes.
All right. So he left that there
Yes.
as a commemoration or
Right.
historical monument of where he really came from.
Yes.
Yeah. I see a lot of fruit trees in the back and so on. What you were saying about...
Never like doing away with fruit trees. Always like to have his fruit trees.
Leo Coker was indeed a family man. Regardless of where his talent took him, Buenos Aires was his home.
Mrs. Coker, how long have you been living, how many years have you been living with Mr. Coker?
So I've been living together for 40 years. 40 years of happy marriage.
40 years of happy marriage. You saw him as a good family man?
Yes.
Yeah.
He was a family man.
He was. Yeah, because I noticed that he always look for, no matter where he goes, what part in the world, he always think about home, eh?
Home, yes, always.
Yeah. In your opinion, what are some of the qualities that made Leo one of the greatest pan tuners in the world?
He was a man of principle. That make it out. And he stood for what is right.
Yeah.
Always think about doing what is right. And always to upliftment. He always think about going higher to higher heights.
All right.
Leo fathered 2 children by his lifetime wife, Monica. He provided them with the best education that his resources could have sustained. Today, his children are professionals holding their own in society.
And most people think that he died with some things that he did not divulge to the pan world. In other words, is sitting with him in the grave today. He did not divulge some things that perhaps we could have benefited by. What do you think?
Well, that is ever so true. This is one of the criticisms we used to have of Coker, that we felt that when he was doing his work, he did not want anybody around him. And he didn't have anybody around him.
Okay.
And when he's doing his work and you come by him, he would sit down and talk with you.
Okay.
He wouldn't do a thing. He would talk with you for all that until you move from there. And then he would continue to do his work.
All right.
And it was felt right along in that he never wanted to people to know his secrets.
All right.
You know, at that time, he never wanted people to know his secrets in getting in pan to tune and I mean, it was felt so. Well, most people believe that because, as I say, when you come to him, he will stop his work and he will converse with you. Say, when do the 2 things one time? When do the 2 things one time? And it was felt that he was not willing to let out
the technique of how he operated.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a sort of vacuum left in his exodus from the pan world?
Oh yes, certainly. And we discussed that. We believe that when you died, I have to say a relatively young age. You were younger than me. You died at 61, I think. 60, 61, a relatively young age.
All right.
And his expertise, you know, when he left the pan world, he created a big void, a large void in the steel band world for a lot of the top bands. You know, for All Stars, Trinidad All Stars, Massy All Stars, Exodus, you know, Ham Nights, Solo Pan Nights, a lot of other bands, you know, and we thought that whilst, I mean, we have no control over that. He came in, he did what he has to do, he was very talented, and sadly enough, I mean, still not too late. I think Angel Mohammed of Exodus is planning to have something done where we can have Leo Coker's name etched in when you're talking about the history and development of the steel band, and one of the persons who must stand out. I think we have been lax during my time as president of Pan Tobago. One of the things that we attempted to do was to do a definitive history of the steel band. So far that has not been completed. But I believe any history of the steel band Not only in, as I said, not only in the technical aspect in the pan tuning, we must have Neal Coker's name must be featured prominently in any history of the steel band movement to come out officially or otherwise.
Leo Coker passed from this life in his early 60s, leaving an irreplaceable gap in steel pan tuning technology. Leo Coker took to his tomb the secret of his craft.